someone.
Raise your hand if you know someone or have heard about someone who's ever been bullied. Okay. Now think about your own life and your own experiences. And raise your hand again if you have ever been bullied. So by the show of hands in the room, is it safe to say that the majority of people are going to experience bullying in some form at some point in their life? Is that safe to say? So would it make sense to learn techniques on how to deal with this issue? In the next 10 minutes, you're going to pick up the one most important tool that you could learn in order to protect yourself from a bully. You will learn the technique that will allow you to move through any criticisms and be able to get to your next step. This story happened to me when I was in middle school. I was 13 years old, crazy, crazy shy. I swear that the only people that I made eye contact with in my first 13 years was the ground. Even Bob, my best and most imaginary friend, would tell me, "Hey Mark, my eyes are up here." If you ever watch the Discovery Channel, you'll know that predators attack only the easiest prey. The oldest, the injured, or the weak. And when I walked onto that school ground for the first time, every predator could see that I was an easy target and that I was weak. I had a kid come up to me and say, "Hey, loser, I am going to make your life a living hell." And that was the first day that I met Jewel. And what an absolute treasure she was to be around. In our first class together, she made a point to sit next to me in class. And every time our teacher, Mr. A, would turn around to write something on the blackboard, she would kick my desk. And when Mr. A turned around, she'd be like, "Mark did it." It would happen again. He'd turn around. "Mark, I'm trying to learn." Mr. A was furious, and he said, "Listen, young man, get your act together. Go sit in that desk over there and think about what you've done." I was too shy and scared to say anything. So I got up from my desk and I walked to the empty seat. I thought that this empty seat was going to be the end of it, and that if I ignored Jewel, it would simply go away. But that was simply not the case. About a week later, I came into my morning class and sat down, and Jewel decided to sit right behind me. During the national anthems, we all stood up, and I was the proudest little Canadian until about 10 seconds in, when Jewel ran out from behind the desk, grabbed hold of my track pants, and pulled them down. Every pair of eyeballs locked onto me, and laughter filled the room. As fast as I could pull my pants up, Jewel would yank them back down again, and this went on for the entire anthem. The voice inside my head cried out, "Please stop." But the voice on the outside was silent. The next day at school, I wore a belt, thinking that that would be the solution to my problem, and that if I continued to ignore Jewel, she would eventually leave me alone. But that, sadly, was not the case. Then the climax. One day after school, my mom and I had a dentist appointment. When we got back and drove into our parking spot, I noticed Jewel and a group of her friends leaving my apartment building. My stomach started to ache. And as we walked inside to our front door, I was horrified by what I saw. Swear words had been carved into the door with a key, and silly putty replaced the door handle that used to be there. Death threats were written to my mom on the door. Dear Mrs. Bertrand, sleep with one eye open tonight, because we are coming to get you. I'll never forget my mom's hand trembling as she held the phone and said the words, "No, officer, I don't know who could have done this, but I knew." And I knew that ignoring this problem was not going to make it go away. So that's when I decided that I had to ask for help and talk to someone about what had happened. I was so afraid and ashamed when I uttered the words, "Mom, all of this is my fault. I'm sorry." My mom said, "It's okay, Mark. This is our problem now." As the night went on, I told my mom everything that had happened with Jewel leading up to this event. And she reassured me that things would be okay. And I felt better. The next day at school, Jewel was expelled. But I knew that that was only a short-term fix, because I was still an easy target for bullies. And high school was right around the corner. What was I going to do when I entered that new jungle? I knew I needed help. So I decided to talk to someone. I said, "Mom, I'm scared." And she said, "Don't worry, Mark. This is our problem now." The next day, when I came home, I found what could have been the entire self-help section from the bookstore laid out on my bed. My mom said, "Oh, here, Mark, how about this one? How to win friends and influence people." My mom had made my problem of self-esteem our problem, and she was going to give me the resources to help get better. And after reading the books, my self-esteem started to improve, but I still wasn't making any friends at school. So I decided to talk to someone. I said, "Mom, I don't have any friends." She said, "Don't worry, Mark." And that worried me. I pictured my mom coming to school the next day campaigning. "Have you met my son? Have you met my son?" Instead, my mom signed me up for every extracurricular activity she could think of. Music lessons, swimming lessons, karate, band camp, air cadets. I did it all. I had met more people in a week than I'd looked at my entire life. And it was all worth it, because when I reached high school, I noticed and was shocked that I had some decent social skills. And by the end of the week, I had quite a few friends. Enough friends that I told old Bob, "Hit the bricks, buddy. I've got some better friends now." And it's all because of the conversations that I had with my mom that got me to that point. Now maybe think back to 10 minutes ago when I told you to think of the bully. Maybe they weren't vandalizing your door or pulling your pants down in front of the entire class. But I bet you felt awfully alone. And you don't need to feel that way. Don't be afraid to speak up. Get off your butts. Open your mouth. Make eye contact. And talk to someone. Mr. Postmaster.